So just the other night, the Isle of Man got to see easily the wildest Northern Lights display I've ever seen, and easily the strongest. I mean, you could see light pillars towering above you in the night sky, and this right now is real-time footage that I shot on the night. I really didn't know if I was going to catch any that night, if I'm honest. There was literally nothing but cloud for a good hour and a half until it finally cleared and we got to see the Northern Lights in the night sky. The shot I wanted to get that night, I just missed out on because the clouds hadn't cleared fully and the tide was coming in pretty fast. So by the time the clouds cleared, the tide had engulfed the subject I wanted to picture. But here's a picture of the shipwreck I wanted to capture with it anyway, because there were some light pillars that were just going over it, which, if I'm honest, I could not believe my eyes when I saw it, because that is directly west from where I was stood. And you can see the setting moon with Venus just above it, and there's light pillars either side just beaming across the sky. So I actually learned afterwards that this is a phenomenon known as STEVE, and that stands for Strong Thermal Emission Velocity Enhancement. And it can be spotted closer to the equator than the aurora, which explains why it was so far west. It's apparently not a rare phenomenon, and to my naked eye it did just look like a random aurora pillar that had reached so far out west. But in all the time I've been aurora chasing through the years, I've never seen it myself. So it's really cool to have seen it that night. So after I took a few images at the shipwreck, I actually started to walk back towards my car because I honestly didn't know if I was going to see any more activity that night. The clouds were still lingering around, although there was a slight opening to the north, and the tide was coming in pretty fast, so I didn't have much beach to work with, if I'm honest. But on the walk to the car, the clouds did thankfully open up a bit more, and the display that was in front of me was ridiculous. So I knew that if nothing else, if I couldn't find a decent composition anywhere, that at least the Northern Lights reflecting on the wet sand would look quite nice. So in the end, that's kind of just what I went for. There was still another break in the clouds to come, and more people started turning up in the hopes of seeing it. And I thought it'd be cool just to film a little bit here and there, try and get them in the foreground in front of it. And then, yeah, before I knew it, it just blew up again. And it's at that point where I kind of just really wanted to take in the moment, and I couldn't see any pictures I wanted to take, if I'm honest, so I just kept rolling and watched it in front of me. And it was something else. It really was something else. So I realize there's a lot of misconceptions out there of what you actually see with the naked eye when it comes to the Northern Lights. And for us here, at this latitude of 54 degrees north, we're pretty south from the Arctic Circle, so you don't see any color, unfortunately. The most you see is those light pillars, and they kind of just look like gray spotlights kind of shooting up towards the sky. It's very surreal. I think a more clear representation of what you see with the naked eye would be a little bit more black and white. So another thing that can confuse people is whether the moon interferes with it or not. because it actually confused me for a good long time, until I experienced it myself firsthand in Iceland, thankfully. It was a super moon, and not only was I capturing it on camera with color, but I could see it with the naked eye, and I could see purples just kind of coming out of nowhere above me, which was insane. But even on the Isle of Man here, I've been out during a half moon. I managed to capture a very bright display, and I'm sure that even a full moon wouldn't be able to wash out too much of a display. So the cause of the Northern Lights is actually from CMEs, which are basically mass ejections from the sun, and they'll typically take a few days to reach Earth. So if you look into them, you can kind of actually predict when an aurora might actually happen. Now, I'm no expert at all, but over the years in my experience of aurora chasing, I've learned that there's certain stats you can pay attention to kind of predict whether it will be a good display or not. And for this one in particular, it was the BZ level that really gave it away. So what that needs is basically to be a negative level and stable at that negative level for a good couple of hours. So as of now, in 2023, we are beginning to reach the peak of this solar cycle. So there's a solar cycle every 11 years. And if you remember, like any of the last biggest displays of the Northern Lights would have been a good few years ago, say for like 5 or 6 years ago. And so now we are beginning to reach that peak again, and there's just going to be more frequent displays, I imagine, and hopefully just as big as that one. So cheers for checking this out, and I do hope you enjoyed those images. I did want to film more in the night, but it was a bit too dark with all the clouds, so you really couldn't see anything at all. I really hope to try and do more photography videos, especially in the field and not like this. But we'll see how much time I can get. But I really, really hope to do more. So let me know if you enjoyed this and if you want to see more. Cheers. Hey, little buddy. There's a dog here right now.